So how you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
How was your trip? How was your work trip? I'm doing amazing. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, it was good. It was in Palm Springs, so it was pretty good weather.
Okay.
And yeah, it was good. It was marketing based, so learned a lot there.
Okay. I mean, where did you travel to? Like in the United States or like somewhere else, like outside?
Yes, it was in the United States. I'm in Oregon, and so the
Okay.
conference was in Southern California, so not too far away, but still within the, West Coast.
Okay. First of all, I really appreciate you for being here. This is my third ever podcast ever, so I'm really pleased to have you as one of the guests.
Nice.
And
Honor to be here.
yeah, and I know it's a work day, and I'm so grateful for you to, take out your time and being here. It really means a lot. Just yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's dive deep into it. I'm really interested. I have a really profound, deep questions that we want to ask you, and yeah, would want to know your perspectives on various concepts. And yeah,
Let's
without
do it.
further ado, let's do this. Are you excited?
Yeah. Yes, very excited. My first podcast I've ever been
Oh,
on, so.
it's your first. Okay, that's amazing. So for the people watching, can you like real quick introduce yourself? What do you do, and everything, and what your interests and hobbies and
Yeah, so I'm Ellie, and I currently work in marketing for an engineering firm here in the United States. A lot of that job is proposal writing. Some of it
Mhm.
is more of the digital marketing that you might see, running a LinkedIn page, running the website, but a lot of it is proposal writing, so kind of writing to sell the company's services. On the side, I've started my own kind of ghostwriting consulting offer where I write for founders and different leaders on Twitter just to help them get sort of more qualified leads to whether it's their course or booking a demo, a sales call, just attracting people to their funnel. And let's see, hobbies. When the weather's nice, I like to golf.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll play video games.
What video
Depends on,
games? Which
you know,
ones?
I'm a big cozy gamer, so I've been a big fan of like Stardew Valley. Uh,
Okay. What
I
about
really
Fortnite?
like. I'm not very good at Fortnite. I've played it
Okay.
once, but
Okay.
I think I kept pressing the wrong buttons. I kept building things when I wasn't meaning to. Um, but yeah, Cult of the Lamb. Probably any Mario game really is a solid game in my book. Yeah, I like to travel whenever I can. It's always hard when you have a full-time job, but I try to make time for it, spend time with family. Uh, yeah, it's probably my main hobbies right there.
But I also read that you were also a founder of this company called Lunch and Plays. I mean, SWE's Lunch and Plays. Is that the
Oh, with it was it's kind of a internal initiative. So
okay?
the lunch and plays are a kind of a monthly, twice monthly activity that my I would kind of do with my company where I would bring in my Nintendo Switch and we would
Okay.
play either Just Dance or we'd play Mario Kart or the new Switch sports game. So that was kind of my internal initiative to just bring more of the company together and have fun.
That's amazing. Okay. By the way, what's this one fact that a lot of people don't know about you in general?
Oh man, one fact. Man, you're really asking all the
Yeah, I know.
hard-hitting questions.
Yeah.
I I don't really have a much of a fun fact about me. I think something people definitely don't know right off the bat is I have like six older siblings, and I'm the
Okay.
youngest by like a lot. So, um, kind of the mistake of the family, put it
Mistake?
loving. No,
No, I mean
I'm kidding.
I'm the youngest as well, right? And I think youngest are like the most loved ones, don't you think?
Yeah, I think so, and I think I agree with that. I don't know if my other siblings would agree. I think they would begrudgingly agree with that. But yeah, I have five older brothers and then one older sister. So I
Okay.
Spent a lot of time with my brothers growing up, basically
Oh,
raised by them.
okay. Um, I would also like to know about your childhood. What was your childhood like? Were you good at academics at all? Or did you like hate academics? Because I did.
Yes, childhood was good. I think I had a pretty good childhood growing up. Um, yeah, I went to school. I went to the, basic primary, secondary school. We call it kind of a K through 12. So, kindergarten to your 12th grade over here in the States. And then I
Mhm.
did go to a university. I went to the University of Oregon, and I originally studied journalism, and I had a focus in public relations. I thought I was gonna be a publicist when I grew up. I thought I was gonna be a someone who managed the brand and the image of a celebrity. So I kind of met my passion for marketing and my publicity sort of passion, and I've merged them to sort of make a ghostwriting offer. So it kind of touches best of both worlds in a little bit.
Okay. So I'm curious now. Who was your like who did you look up to as a child, as a as a young person? Like who was your favorite influencer or just this person that you always looked up to in some way?
Yeah, man. Um, Someone I looked up to was actually my own cousin. She
Okay.
owns a public relations firm, but
Mm-hmm.
before that, it was kind of her who got me interested in marketing and public relations originally because she used to work for Nike and she used to work for DC Shoes. And I'm not sure if you've ever heard of Rob Dyrdek. He hosts
Never.
the
No.
he hosts a show called Ridiculousness, and he also had a few reality shows, Robin Big, Rob's Fantasy Factory. He's essentially a skateboarder and kind of a TV personality, and she used to work with him, and I always really liked him growing up, so I thought it was very cool that she was sort of in his circle in a way for a bit. Um, so she's one person I look up to. Trying to think who else did I look up to growing up. It's hard. There weren't a lot of, I guess there were a few influencers on maybe YouTube, but I can't really put a finger. I look up to more people now than I did when I was a kid, if that
Who do you
makes
look up
sense.
to? Who do you look up to now? Like the top most or like this top priority? Someone that you really look up to?
Well, I really like Dan Coe.
Or
I,
you do? Yeah, I love
yeah,
him. I
fabulous
all
writer. Yeah.
Are you like in his Discord? And Dan's Are you in his Discord server?
I'm not. I'm
You should
not.
you should join because I ask him
Yeah.
questions and he replies like in like 6 hours, 5 hours, 2 hours, like a really descriptive reply, and it's really helpful, insightful. And
Wow.
yeah, it's amazing. So what do you think about Dan? I love his writing, I love his everything. What do you personally like
Okay.
about Dan Co?
Yeah, I like his writing. I love his
Uh-huh.
writing. I love his takes on, writing and sort of if you're someone who wants to build an audience for yourself, he has very good advice.
Uh,
Honestly, I like his voice, his very soothing voice, and
okay.
sort of the way he talks and describes his ideas and concepts. He kind of has this sage-like archetype to him.
Hmm.
Like he's very informative. He is a very good educator as well. And I think his YouTube videos alone hold, so much value. So I do like him. I like Dakota Robertson. That's
Oh
his
yeah.
last name.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. He's great as
All
well.
about,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely a good writer, great educator when it comes to writing. Same with Nicolas Cage or Nicholas Cole, not Nicolas Cage. Oh my gosh.
Hmm.
Nicholas Cole,
Hmm.
you know who I'm
Hmm.
talking about.
Yeah.
And another person, Mason Dewar or Cardinal Mason, he he's more of a copywriter in the space and on Twitter. I'm actually in his group in his like copy MBA course,
Okay.
um, which is which is a great course. And I I look up to him because I first found him on TikTok, and he really knew how to work TikTok. He was a very good kind of short form influencer in a way.
Mhm.
So he was very attention grabbing, and he's definitely more kind of relatable. I feel like a lot of these influencers or people in the space, it's almost daunting how much they've done and accomplished. Like there's a certain like demeanor, but Mason just keeps it real. I think he keeps himself very more like relatable to um, the average kind of person starting out, which I really like.
Yeah, definitely. What would you say your favorite book is? Do you read books?
I do when I remember. A book I really like is Atomic Habits. Have you read that one?
James Clear? Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a famous one. Yeah,
Yeah,
I haven't
that's
read
a
it, but like I have the audiobook of it. Yeah.
oh, perfect. Yeah, that's if I find that so many people online and in the kind of entrepreneurial space talk or reference that book quite often or concepts of that book, like habit stacking, getting 1% better every single day.
Hmm.
So I like it because it's definitely the most memorable, and it felt like every time, every chapter, every passage I read, I could take something from it and then apply it to my everyday life. And yeah, it's been very helpful for just kind of forming new, better habits and also just being able to like track and execute them. So I really like that book. Another book I like, which I originally listened to on audio, but I've been going back to read it so I can kind of absorb it better, is Rich Dad Poor Dad. Have you read that one?
Oh, Robert Kiyosaki.
Yes.
Yeah. Went through a lot of your tweets, right? Because again, Twitter's my favorite platform. And I went through a lot of your tweets and I really found insights and I really found questions. So, okay, so would you say you would always a natural storyteller when it comes to storytelling, or you like develop the skill over time, you know?
Let's see. I think I've been a storyteller ever since I was younger in my elementary, primary school days. That was always my kind of strong suit was writing. Any sort of writing class, any sort of a writing assignment. That's always where I thrived. I felt like I could take no matter how little the information was and turn it into something that someone actually wanted to read. I I pride myself in being able to write a book report without really having to read the book, just kind of skimming it and reading the front and the back and even reviews of the book and turning it into something that made sense basically. I I find I'm a better storyteller when I'm writing versus when I'm speaking. I really do look up to comedians who are really good storytellers. Now that I'm thinking about, I could answer that question better. There's a lot of comedians out there who I look up to in terms of storytelling. But I think just as a kid, yeah, writing and being able to kind of set the scene and the tone, that's always been a strong suit. But I think I've also learned more the more I've grown up about storytelling. That was actually one of the topics of the conference that I went to was all about storytelling. So,
Okay. I really, well, I also enjoy storytelling a lot. I also like speaking, but I would say I'm more of a public speaker, like, speaking in public. I mean, I
mhm.
also love writing. I've started writing since like 2 years now, and I enjoy it. But I want to know. I'm curious as well. What does storytelling mean to you as Ellie? Like, what do you see in storytelling? Like, what does it truly mean to you, right?
To me, it means that you can really hook someone and have them really like picture what's going on. Like you're setting the stage, you're explaining who was there, what was happening, and you're evoking emotion from someone, whether they're on the edge of their seats, waiting for the next thing to happen, they're feeling sad, they're laughing. So to me, storytelling is mostly about evoking emotion and also kind of making someone really feel like they're right there. Like they can picture it. So more detail, like kind of more detailed storytelling. If you can really describe the color of something, the smell, what someone was thinking, what they were doing, how they were delivering their own dialogue. So yeah, storytelling is yeah, about emotion.
Okay. And I also read that, you transfer private DMs into content. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Like, how do you, transform private DMs into content? Curious.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
so when
So, I mean,
I'm working,
you did,
yeah,
you did help me,
right.
eventually create, for the viewers. Like, she did help me create a free
Yeah.
content plan for my tweets, and it was really amazing. By the way, I did get a lot of engagement. So, if you guys are looking for great engagements and so hit Ellie up. It's really she delivered in like 24 hours too, like quick. I didn't expect for someone to like deliver this quickly in like, short notice. And yeah, it was really amazing. The engagements and the tweets were also great, amazing. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry for
Well,
interrupting.
thank you. Thanks for the plug. Thanks for the compliment.
Yeah.
Um, yes. So how I go about it when it's, just in the DMs and not maybe like on a call is I like to get to know the person on the other end, their own story, what makes them tick, what are some of the events that led to where they are now. Mostly the people who I'm doing, content plans for are people, like yourself, you're promoting you have something to promote, basically. Some people sell a course or they sell a high ticket offer. So I like to figure out what got them to to that spot. Uh, because usually in those events or those stories, they probably ran into they've experienced some pain points that their own, probably ideal client or ideal follower can relate to. So I like to extract that information from them. I also like to know any advice they'd want to truly give, anything from their own personal life or story that they feel comfortable with obviously posting about. And I like to also know who they look up to. If there was a creator or an author or anyone really that they look up to, maybe they want to emulate, that's always a good starting point too, is to kind of frame their content, not to exist because everybody's unique, so they're not exactly going to copy someone like Danco. But if they want to maybe reach Danco's audience, if that seems to be in a line, there's a way to write and to do that. So once I have that information, I try to get as much kind of info as I all the info I've extracted, I sort of kind of put into this big one sheet, and I'll have like different highlighters for kind of tagging like this is more personal, this is more kind of business related. And I've made a few like templates for like tweet templates that go viral or they go well. And like I try to stick to like the gap framework, growth, authority, personal. So I basically just take a huge one sheet of the information I have from them. I have it divvied up into the different sort of pillars that I want to post about. And I kind of come up with a content calendar that, well, I guess sometimes I guess it depends on what they want, but I'll usually put up a calendar or make a calendar of kind of give them direction of what to post on what day, what times that work well. Um, Maybe they want to do more authority posts on Monday. Maybe they want to do something controversial on Tuesday, things like that. It kind of varies depending on how I see fit and how maybe they've been interacting and posting in the past. But yeah, I get to writing once I obviously have the pillars in mind and the different frameworks I want to use. And occasionally I will ask someone like Claude AI, does this sound okay? Yeah, using AI is very helpful, but to me it's a better editor than it is a writer because I will, I'll make sure to feed AI, this is the tone and this is the message I'm going for. Does this actually sound okay? And sometimes it'll give me tweaks and sometimes it'll say, hey, actually that sounds pretty good. So it's
So
kind of
do
the whole
you
process.
use Claude AI mainly for your work? Like,
Yeah, I would say Claude is better for understanding writing and
uh
giving editing advice. ChatGPT I use for research more. ChatGPT is kind of my newer, it's it's what I use for a search engine. It
okay.
feels like.
You should use
Um,
Perplexity, by the way. It's really amazing and it's really on point.
oh
It's
yeah?
yeah, Perplexity,
Should
yeah,
write.
it's yeah. Did you also hear about the DeepSeek model that came out, the Chinese model that is now really like famous?
Yeah, I haven't used it yet. I
You should more about ghostwriting and content creation, right? So now, okay. So first of all, what's the most memorable project that you've worked on when it comes to ghostwriting?
let's see, I think a, it was a one-off kind of gig that I did that was very memorable. It I wrote a newsletter. So my cousin, who I mentioned earlier, who has a PR firm, I helped her out for a few projects, and one of them was writing a newsletter for it was the Oregon Wine Board. Actually, it was more of a blog. It was a one blog that I wrote, and it was highlighting the 2023's kind of best harvest moment. So all these vineyards across Oregon, it was basically highlighting the best parts of that season for everybody. And yeah, it was their most read post in their biweekly newsletter. I think that still stands. So that was a really fun project, just knowing that it got the most, eyes out of everyone on their list. So that was a memorable project. It was really fun to create too. I got to kind of learn more about just how wine works and how vineyards work and what that harvest looks like. Because I mean, I really had no idea about that industry. Um, yeah, that was probably the most memorable project.
Okay. As a creator myself, I've dealt with perfectionism a lot of times in content creation in general, right? Um, you know, so how do you think people can overcome perfectionism? Because I think a lot of people have big ambitions. They want to be a content creator, they want to do a lot of great stuff and, create the best content ever. But they seem to get lost in this loophole where they would just think, and just not execute and just would try to be like, okay, I'll just make it the best. If I upload, I'll be the best. But they never end up actually, posting. They never actually end up, I would say, executing or taking action. So how do you think people should overcome this? Because this is a really subtle yet really important issue that I think everyone experiences, like most of the creators at least. So what do you think? How should people overcome this issue? Your take on it?
Yeah, that's a good question because I am also still finding ways to overcome it.
Okay.
I completely relate to the analysis paralysis, as people call it. Thinking, consuming information, tweaking whatever they're working on versus just posting or just executing what they say they're going to do. So, something that I find helpful for me personally is if I'm sitting at my desk and I've realized I've spent an hour on a post or an hour even creating when I make kind of a system of like a system for myself. I try to write down everything I do, and I'll unfortunately spend just so much time on it, and I realize, oh my gosh, I'm not even doing anything yet. I'm overthinking prepping for doing. when I realize I've spent too much time, I'll say to myself, all right, you have 3 more minutes. You're giving yourself 3 more minutes to continue this nonsense. And then you just have to stop and you just have to go. So I will acknowledge it and I'll almost talk to myself like I'm a child. It's like you get 3 more minutes of
Mhm.
playtime. You get 3 more minutes of, you know, kind of high level procrastination. And then you have to either put it down or you have to send it, you have to stop, you gotta just go with what you have. So that helps for me personally because I do give myself a little bit more time. And often I don't need all those 3 minutes. Oftentimes I realize, man, I'm just being silly. I just have to stop. So if I can be present and be aware of what I'm doing, then I can just tell myself, you only get a little bit left of this nonsense, and then you just have to go. So I suggest people try that, especially if they respond well to being put on a kind of a timer.
Okay, that's okay. I'll try that. Okay, 3 minutes thingy.
Yeah, set
But
a timer on your phone or your computer. Um, it might help. And then once you hear that alarm, sometimes there's something in my brain that just says, "Okay, we're done. You heard the bell."
okay. So I'm curious, how do you measure success in like marketing, right? What metrics truly matter to you as Ellie in marketing?
Let's see. I like it. Let's see. And in terms of when I, write on Twitter or X,
Mhm.
as they
Hmm.
say, or if because I run the LinkedIn page for the engineering firm that I work at, the metrics that I typically like to use for, both of those is engagement rate. So
Hmm.
it's basically all of the eyes, all of the people that have seen whatever you posted, divided by the reactions, the comments, the shares, the interaction. So impressions divided by interactions. And to me, that number really shows, yeah, a lot of people might have looked at it, but how many of them actually took action with the post? So that to me, engagement rate proves that you had something very valuable that people spent enough time on to give it some sort of interaction. Because I think maybe my ex post that has the most impressions would be my pinned thread, but it has the most impressions because it's right there on my page, so every page view sees that. And even though it has a ton of impressions, it doesn't mean that everybody necessarily looks too far into the thread itself, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
Um, but I've had smaller posts that maybe it has less than 100 impressions, but it has 7 likes and it's got, 10 comments. And to me, that is way more valuable because that engagement rate is higher. So that's for me personally, I think engagement rate is the best. Obviously, it's good to know about um, if you can, how many followers you might have gotten from a post, because that's also a big determiner of value. If they saw the post, liked enough, and they said, "Yes, I want more of this." So determining kind of, how many followers did you get in a week? What posts did you did you tweet that week? And kind of determining what was a successful week for you. And then, the likes, those are fine. The likes and comments. Likes specifically are more vanity metrics. Comments can be useful as well, especially if people are either adding on to it or even asking questions. That's that's a metric that I like kind of on an personal engagement level.
You like promote your stuff? So, like, how do you like promote? Because I would want to know that. How do you promote?
Yeah. So I'll be honest, I'm still sort of like kind of tweaking exactly what exactly I want to promote. So I I recently just created a newsletter literally
I saw,
yesterday.
yeah.
I just made a newsletter. And so I've been creating, so I haven't posted them yet, but I have some long form content and some threads in my queue for people to engage with. And then the very last part of it is going to be, if you like more of this, check out my newsletter in my bio, or maybe I'll just put the link in the tweet itself. So I want to promote my newsletter through X, through long form and threads primarily. And I am using my newsletter to sort of promote my like done for you offer. So people who are on the newsletter will obviously get some like two solid newsletters a week of valuable content that they can use and put to work that day. And then I'm just gonna offer, if they need some extra help, I'll include a more of like a Calendly link or even like a type form. I'm still kind of working that out. So in terms of how I promote, X is awesome. X is a really easy way to get a lot of eyes on whatever you want to sell or just promote or just raise awareness to. And newsletters, because I think when you sign up for a newsletter, that you kind of indicate that you're a little more interested than just following someone on Twitter. You're kind of more of a warm lead with a newsletter. Um, and in the future, I think I'll do more lead magnets and giveaways, but something weird on X is happening where there've been a lot of people who I've known personally who are getting a suspension on their account, or they're getting like a temporary suspension because they did a giveaway. And I'm nervous to do that because I don't want to lose my account. So I think I'm trying to figure out what is like going on. I think maybe it's the language they're using. If you say like, follow, retweet, and I'll send you,
Oh,
XYZ. I think it comes across as engagement bait, like you're fishing for engagement. So another good way to promote is a lead magnet or a giveaway. But I think I think one has to be careful with the word, like the language they use in promoting it, because yeah,
I I
what's going on?
I personally got that message. I used to upload and build in public communities and all that, and I used to be like, upload my podcast, go watch, and then my message used to get hidden. I used to get a warning, so it was funny. So I
Oh,
stopped doing that. Yeah,
yeah,
so I
I
don't do
know.
that anymore. Yeah,
Good to know. Good to know.
yeah.
Dang, it's a shame. That's a shame though. I mean, you should be able to promote it. I guess what do you do now to promote it? Do you keep it maybe in your bio and direct people to your bio to look at it?
So for example, when I'm gonna upload this podcast with you, so I'm gonna pin my stuff, then I'll just like write something, some kind of, I don't know, something funny or something catchy, and once
Yeah.
they see it, they're gonna click on my profile, and they're gonna see you and me podcasting. They're just gonna just want to know it. That's like one way
Yeah.
of doing it. Or I'll just maybe write something like, "Oh yeah, it's great to execute. I didn't feel like doing it, but I was able to come up with a podcast or something like this, and they would
Yeah.
just want to check me out and stuff like that. Yeah, you just got to be creative with
Smart.
it, but it works.
Yeah.
It truly works because I saw stats. People from X, I think I have like the most people engagement coming from X on my YouTube, so that was amazing.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice. Awesome.
I forgot to mention, I'm gonna put your all the links, including your newsletter, on the top of the description. So for the people who want to subscribe, and I highly recommend you should subscribe. I'll subscribe after I get done with this meeting myself. And yeah, we'll link your newsletter in the description for people to subscribe. Yeah. Okay.
Sweet. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so I've seen you often emphasize on the value of personal experiences in one's content. So, how do you guide clients to share their stories effectively?
How do I get them? Yeah, I think it helps to it helps to kind of understand the way I frame is I ask how did you get to where you are now? So, for example, if you're a trying to, if you're I'm trying to think of an example. If you're someone who maybe is selling a course and it's on Um, maybe if you're selling a course on ghostwriting,
Hmm.
you likely have been on the money online, making money online space for a bit. So you've probably tried drop shipping, maybe Amazon FBA,
Hmm.
maybe you tried trading, like day trading, things like that. So I like to know how someone landed on their own ghostwriting for them to then maybe sell a course teaching others how to write. And usually they say, well, I tried everything under the sun. I tried drop shipping. I tried my own car detailing, business, things like that. I tried SMMA. So I try to, ask a question like that to understand more about them, and with them revealing how they got to the model or where they are now, you learn a lot from them. Sometimes people had a crazy, maybe a near-death experience, and they realized they wanted to do something different. They left their normal job and they pursued something completely different, and maybe it took off, and now they're trying to teach others how to do the same. Um, so everybody has a different kind of reason or path to to how they got to where they are. And almost always other people are going to relate to them in that way. So hopefully that answers your question if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does. I gain a lot of clarity as well. Oh, by the way, since you work for AEC industry, right? Architecture, engineering, and construction.
Yes.
So now I'm really curious. How do you approach creating market strategies for them as an entity?
Yeah, that's a good question because that industry is so
Mhm.
different
It's
than
yes, it's different. It sounds
every
different. Yeah.
they're a little archaic in some ways. And I actually learned a lot about this at the conferences. In that industry, they're sort of more behind on trends than other industries. So I feel like if you're, on X and you're building on X and you're even on, LinkedIn, you get a lot of news from those sites. You kind of know what's popular, what's working for others. And people in the AEC industry are a little behind on trends. And I think it's just when you're someone like an engineer or an architect, maybe you're not necessarily as savvy in the more popular trends. So naturally, the industry is a little bit behind. I think it wasn't that long ago. I think my boss was like, "Why don't we, try like what? How could we do something on TikTok?" And I was trying to say, TikTok might go away. First of all, this is like a month or so ago. Um, and I desperately do want to try to test out TikTok with this firm because I think it'd be kind of funny. But it's not really the industry isn't really up to snuff on TikTok. No architect. I doubt any architecture firms really have a TikTok account. So I think for marketing in that industry, there is there is a perk to try to do something innovative, to try to do something new, try to break out from the noise because it's an industry I feel like that's run by a lot of kind of an older generation that might be more hesitant to try something new, to even, do something different on LinkedIn because LinkedIn is our primary, um, basically source that we use. Also, just in-person events and career fairs, like that's the other way we promote. Like there's not a ton. So definitely doing something different in the industry, something that I've because I specialize, in writing is I've proposed to the leadership team of the company to start being more engaged on LinkedIn with their own accounts, and I would help write and create content plans for the five of them. And that I think is something that will get them ahead of a lot of people in the industry because people want to hear from the engineering expert. They want to hear from the energy sustainability expert. They don't necessarily want to follow, and listen to the company's LinkedIn page. Um, yeah, it's a fun industry. It's something I never thought I would get into because it's a very niche thing. It's marketing for an engineering firm because how we win projects and increase revenue is putting out proposals for a project that was already posted. So it's a lot of us chasing in a lot of ways. Um, but
How
yeah, it
Mhm.
yeah, go
How did you get into this industry? How did you get this job? Did you apply? Was it through connection or
I did apply. I was originally working for a hospitality company and I wasn't doing marketing. I was more of a receptionist at that job. And I just knew I wanted a change. I wanted a completely different role. I wanted to actually pursue something that I studied. I had some experience in marketing and I had a degree in public relations. So I found that job and during my first phone call, um, the recruiter was saying, it's going to be a lot of writing. If you're not someone who likes to write, like this might not be a good fit. And I said, actually, I love to write. I think this will actually be a great fit. So that's kind of how it came across, came up is I found it. The company itself, also seemed pretty interesting because they worked on a lot of local and kind of high profile projects. And where was I going with that? And they had a really good culture, it seemed like. They also just had really good values and it's still a really, great place to work for. I'm really glad that I came across that job posting. I never thought I would, enter this industry, but it's cool to get a glimpse into, engineering.
Mhm. Okay. And you also advocate using AI to amplify, right? And not replace our voices in marketing. So can you share some practical example for this?
Yeah, using AI to amplify
Not replace
in
our voices in marketing.
yeah. Um I guess I'll continue to use this firm as an example.
Hmm.
When I first joined, they were in the middle of a rebrand. So they were going towards, I think I mentioned this before, but they're going towards a sage kind of archetype. They're trying to be more informative and really present themselves as leaders in their industry. And a part of the rebrand and marketing package that was being created was a very specific tone and voice. So, there's certain kind of vocabulary that you use when you're trying to portray as more of a sage archetype versus the hero archetype. There's different it's a different message you're giving, you're trying to deliver. So, something that I've found and I'm experimenting with is uh with Claude AI, for example, is you can come up with your own kind of not model, but you can create your own style and you can feed it different passages or narratives and then it'll basically write you something that will match that style and the narrative. So for example, there's a lot of project narratives, website copy, different marketing collateral that we have written to match the sage archetype. And now I've been feeding that into Claude. So now it understands what we're trying to go after. So it's amplifying our voice because it's able to learn who we are and learn what our voice is. So if I write something, I can give it to Claude and ask it, does this actually sound like a sage? Does this sound how I'm want it to sound? And then now it's knowledgeable to kind of give me feedback and not some kind of generic advice. So that's been a really nice way that AI has amplified marketing and the voice of an industry like of a firm and a whole industry. It's just so smart when you can feed it information.
Mhm. That's interesting. Do you personally think that there are some misconceptions, right, about using AI tools for marketing or in marketing? Do you personally think that there's misconceptions, common misconceptions?
Yes. I think I think in marketing specifically, I think there are people out there who will go onto ChatGPT and say, write me a blog post about blank. And then that's the only thing they give it. And they'll copy and paste it and send it. And that I think there are a lot of people who unfortunately do that. And so
Hmm.
because of that, there are people who say, well, I'm never going to use AI. I'm never going to use ChatGPT. It sounds horrible. It
Hmm.
doesn't sound like a human. It doesn't work. And I think the misconception is that AI does not have to replace you. It can be an editor, but even if you're using it to edit a piece that you've written, you have to be a good prompt engineer.
Prompt,
So
okay.
that's
Mm.
yeah, that's the biggest misconception is that it'll do everything for you and it'll sound great because you do have to be very specific with what you give it. You have to let it know. I just want you to edit this. I don't want you to rewrite anything. You just have to over explain yourself to Chat GPT. So yeah, that's the biggest misconception is that it's not a good tool and that it's horrible if you yeah, it sounds horrible if you give it poor instructions. So it's all about the instructions you give it.
Okay, let's say hypothetically, if AI didn't exist today, what would the
Yeah.
current market or landscape look like according to you? And would you want that, or would you not want that as well? If you know.
Yeah. Um, I like AI. I like where it's heading. I like how it's helped people in marketing. I don't think it's close to completely replacing, writers or marketers. Not yet, at least. It's
Hmm.
just it's not smart enough yet. It'll probably get there eventually. But um I think if AI wasn't in the picture, I just I think I'd still be producing good work. It would just take a little bit longer because either I would have to go back and edit it myself, and then I'll be stuck in my own analysis paralysis where I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, I don't know if this is good enough, and I'll just overly tweak it, or I send it to a peer to review, like someone in my department to review. So, yeah, without AI, I think it just will take longer to get good content, but AI helps you continue to get good content in a shorter amount of time. That makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. But okay, let's hypothetical situation. AI ends up replacing all the writers, right? It's just a hypothetical, okay? I'm not saying it's gonna happen or it's not gonna happen. So, if that happens, what will you do as a person at that time? What will you be doing, otherwise? It's like it
Yeah.
replaced your job, and now what are you gonna do? Will
Yeah,
you?
it's a good question. I've thought about this. Um, Something that fascinates me and interests me is are the people who are on the back end of AI and are helping train it and are helping do the input to help it write better. So I think if I was in a position where I was really worried about um my role, I'd probably like join some software boot camp and become some sort of prompt engineer and try to, instead shift myself into being someone who helps make AI better. Because if it's already replacing me, I might as well just join its team. I might as well just, I might as well
Okay.
just help it out, especially if it'll get me paid.
Okay. That's a
Yeah.
great answer. Okay. Um, okay. So you champion building genuine connections over chasing vanity metrics. Um, so what's your advice for someone looking to build real connections online?
Yeah. So I think for building connections online, I think you you have to if you're maybe writing, let's say on LinkedIn or X, You want to make sure that you want to get really clear on the person you're trying to reach, and you want to write like you're talking directly to them. You're not trying to
Mhm.
talk to everybody. You're trying to talk to um I don't know, it could be anything. You're trying to talk to, engineers. You're trying to talk to um people in the fitness area. But another part of that is not being if you want to build real connections, don't be afraid to send someone a DM, and don't be afraid to if there's something that someone's doing that you really like, don't be afraid to comment something really nice on what they're doing. Let them know how you liked it. If you have thoughts to add on, and don't be afraid to send a DM just saying, "Hey, I really like your stuff. Keep it up." Because I think a lot of people get bombarded with messages of someone trying to sell them something. But if you could just say, I really like your stuff, and you can ask a question, that goes a long way. It's crucial to build relationships online because you can't, it's hard to achieve things alone. It's better to do it in a community, especially if someone is chasing a similar goal to you. You can just bounce ideas off each other.
I mean, it's pretty ironic because the way I found you was I was just randomly scrolling on, X, and I found your profile, and I saw a DM for a free content plan. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
that's interesting. I'm new on X. I think I was really Greek to X at that time. It was like Greek to me at that time. So I was like, let's just DM, even if they don't
Yeah.
respond. Fuck it, just DM.
Yeah.
And damn, you ended up responding, and you ended up creating a legit content plan, and here we are talking. So that's
Yeah.
that's 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 a real life example right there for people to witness, I guess. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
amazing. So
And people shouldn't be afraid to give out free value either.
hmm
I
hmm
think a lot of people are try to like gatekeep
yeah.
things. It's I actually have a funny I have a funny story, but I can tell you later. It's probably not great for a podcast. But it's an example of how I've had experiences where people have been like extremely pushy in like the DMs and are trying to sell you something, work with you, and if you're just like, hey man, and if they pump you free value, and if you're just like, hey, I'm not interested, they'll freak out on you and be like, are you trying to rob off me? It's like, no,
Mm.
I'm not, So yeah, so I guess that also um
Okay.
yeah, further hits the point of like, don't be afraid just to connect for the sake of connecting and building a friendship. And then also don't be afraid of giving someone value for free. There's no harm. You do more good when you do that. So
hmm You get what you give. Yeah.
yeah.
So
I don't know. It's probably you. You might be you're probably the most meaningful connection.
okay, I'm grateful. I'm really grateful for this. You're definitely one of the connections as well, one of the few for now, but yeah, it feels
Yeah.
amazing. But look, I'm okay. I'm also philosophical. I'm also spiritual. I'm getting into philosophy and all that kind of stuff. So, I want to know, according to you, what's the purpose of life, right? What is life?
Mm,
How do you like, what do you think life is? What's the meaning behind life? You know, why even be a ghostwriter? What's your mission? Why even work for a firm like an ASE firm? Why not just go out or live in the Himalayas or just live in the Alaska or something. I don't know.
yeah.
Or so, I mean, why even, do this? What's your mission? Why are you doing this?
Yeah.
Just, just,
That's a
just
better
to
question
sort
than what's the meaning of life.
you said what?
I said that's a better question than what is the meaning of life. I have to
Yeah,
think about that.
yeah, your mission.
My mission. I think my mission is I like bridging the gap. I like bridging the gap between, maybe a computer screen and like kind of like reaching a person. Let me give you a better way to say that. I really enjoy do building those meaningful connections, even if it is online. And the reason why you're kind of my main meaningful connection is I only started kind of getting right back on X like a month ago. But I do what I my mission with ghostwriting is I want to help someone else be able to, if I'm writing for someone who's maybe their offer has to do with fitness, if I can help that person, touch the heart of someone who's really trying to transform themselves through fitness, that is a win. I want to help someone connect with who they're trying to connect with because I there's a value in reaching the right person versus reaching everybody. I don't I'm not trying to go viral, and my purpose is not to help, the goal is not to make someone else go completely viral. It's to make sure you're being seen by the people who want to see you. So in more like broader aspects, it really is just kind of connecting others to others. It's helping someone else make sure that their message gets across and it sounds like them and it's getting across in the right way and they're saying the right things. And in return, the people who will benefit from them will find them. So yeah, I think it's um that's kind of what I enjoy and what my purpose is with ghostwriting is that meaningful connection between two people.
Okay. Love that. Amazing. Um, so let's say if you could ghostwrite for any historical figure or anyone, right? Who would
Yeah.
it be and why?
Ooh, that's a good question. You know, I think a fun I'd love to ghostwrite for someone who is like an own like a big SaaS owner, if
Big
that makes
Sass.
sense. So, it could be I don't know, I don't know if there's anyone like specific. I'm trying to I should get clear on like my absolute dream client, but I would love to find like a startup founder who, maybe they just got, whatever the first level of funding is, and they're ready to take that next step, and they have a small marketing team, they have a little sales team, but I help their account to book, an astronomical amount of demos. So I think my dream client would probably be someone likely in like San Francisco or New York or really anywhere in the world who has an amazing, software to that they want to sell and market. And that would be my dream to really help them take off just by their own personal brand.
Mm. Okay. Maybe one day, I run a company or venture, and maybe one day I could just, ask you to
That's it.
write. For
That'd be
sure.
it.
Yeah,
That'd be
because
awesome.
because like one day I also dream of, writing a book. So
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
yeah. I read a lot of books as well myself. So yeah. Also, what's this one piece of bad marketing advice that you hear all the time that maybe drives you crazy or just, cringe out or like you just think, oh, this is bullshit?
Yeah. Oh, bad marketing advice. Um, oh man, that's hard. I'm sure there's something that I learned at like
You, college,
I,
university.
oh man. Um, when I was that actually helps me figure that out better. Yeah, when I was in college and I did public relations, um, there was when it comes to journalism and that kind of that realm,
Mhm.
their whole point is to spin a narrative to fit some sort of mold. And I think that is why politics are so polarizing because people go to different sources. There's different news channels that and different news outlets that give you kind of they'll take one event that happened and they'll give you different sides of the story. So I think and that's why people, argue with each other online. That's kind of the whole that's why there's a lot of division, like just all across the world. So I think a bad piece of advice or something that I learned at school was, I was basically taught how to spin narrative, how to only tell parts of a story. And I don't think that there's any value in telling parts of a story just to make yourself seem like you're on the right side or like, you're on the correct side of things. So yeah, I think that's a bad piece of advice is to only sell yourself to be good. I think there's a lot of value in giving counter arguments to what you're trying to say. That also builds way more trust and you let someone kind of make up their own mind. And I think that is something that can be applied to any industry, no matter what you're selling, is don't just try to sell the positive about yourself, is you have to include the failures. You have to include the not so nice side about things. I mean, you can say it in a nice way, but you just you gotta be honest, you don't want to just sell the dream, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, that's true. So, a lot of people they want to be ghostwriters and they also want to do what you're doing, right? And ghostwriting, yeah, seems to be popping off lately. So, what do you think? Okay, by the way, how long have you been a ghostwriter for? Approximately like 1 years?
Yeah, let's see. I guess I've kind of been off and on. I was more of like a kind of a copywriter for the last 2-ish years, but I did more one-off gigs, and it probably wasn't until the last 2 months I was like, no, I think ghostwriting is more my avenue. So I guess writing online, maybe 2 or 3 years, but like really honing down on ghostwriting, like fairly recently.
Yeah. So, I mean, based on what you have learned from your experience, how do you think someone can, for example, if someone has to start from zero and they want to, be a successful or like a revolutionary or a ghostwriter, like a great ghostwriter, what do you think they should do and how they should approach in doing so?
Yeah, I think to be a good writer in general, you do have to get your reps in. You have to write a lot, whether it's, just for fun, take someone that you would love to, in an ideal world, you'd love to ghostwrite for. Maybe it's someone like Bill Gates and try to match their tone and like their voice and kind of just first practice if you're a truly beginner. Definitely
Mhm.
get on X or LinkedIn, probably both, but X is a great way to connect with other people in the same industry. You can also start writing on X to build your audience. And something that I'm, currently still doing is I'm building my X account and building the engagement rate and trying to get eyes on like my newsletter and my offer, for example. And I want to emulate that success for someone else. So I guess a big piece of advice is be your own case study. Write for yourself. Really figure out what do you want to achieve for yourself, and then that's when you can achieve, that's what you can achieve for others. If you're saying I want to help someone book 10, 12, sales calls in a month, like that would be a good offer. I want to promise that to someone. Make sure you can do that for yourself first. Um, and also, like we touched on, don't shy away from free content. I was launched a little bit of a that short like DM me for a free content plan. I think I'll start trying to incorporating that again, but I only posted that for a little bit because I wanted to see, you know, who would be interested, and it's also a great way to get reps in. And like yourself, I that was a great way to really hone in my skills, and you got positive results. So make sure that you can prove what you're saying you can do. Yeah, those are my big pieces of advice. Get on X, start practicing, don't be afraid of free content, and
Mhm.
be your own case study.
Love that. Love that. Um, if you could give your younger self one piece of advice, what would that be and why?
Hmm. You don't have to go to college.
I
I know that's such a cliche thing to say.
love that.
I liked college. I mean, I did well. I learned some things in college. Um, college wasn't all a waste, but in my in the marketing realm specifically, in the communications, public relations realm, you can learn so much not in a classroom. Like you don't have to pay a ton of money to learn business or how to market. Go online, go to X, look at YouTube. Like YouTube's amazing. That is an amazing place to learn. You also learn more by just doing and failing and trying something new or trying it again, iterating what you're currently doing. So, college is best for networking and opportunities. For example, I was able to intern at a app company in Spain. Like I lived in Spain for a summer, and I wouldn't be able to do that if it wasn't for being in college. So there is some, there's benefits to it. But maybe my younger self, I don't think my parents wouldn't let me not go to college. I think that was a requirement. So I think, if you're wanting to go to college, a good piece of advice is you get more from doing than just being in the classroom. So take advantage of clubs, take advantage of internship opportunities. Um, but yeah, I think a piece of advice to my younger self is you really don't need the class and the classes and the coursework. Take advantage of the other things that college offers, like networking, internships, joining clubs, things like that.
Okay. If there's one message that you would want to say to the world, what would that be?
Um, let's see. One message to the world.
To the people who are watching at least. Yeah.
People who are watching,
Yeah.
don't be afraid of AI and don't and
Uh,
don't and don't use it like a silly goose. Don't do the obvious. Don't let it do everything for you. Don't let it write your content. Don't let it dictate everything that you do. It's a tool and it's not meant to be a scary tool. If you embrace AI, you're gonna just go farther in the world because that's the way the world is heading. And if it scares you, then that's an even better excuse to start learning how it works and how to be a good prompt engineer with it. Face that fear head on. So yeah, I think that's my best piece of advice is don't let the new technology freak you out. Just embrace it, work with it, and go with how the world is going.
and lastly, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Because 10 years is a lot of time. So
Yeah.
5 years seems, little.
In 5 years, I think I'd like to maybe run a ghostwriting agency. Right now I'm
Okay.
doing consulting, so it's really just me. There's no other VAs or anyone really helping me. But in 5 years, I would like to grow it so I can just help more people. I'd like to scale it where I have better systems and maybe a team that helps keep things running and it'll allow me to work with, tons of more creators and leaders and founders. You're definitely not going to see me selling a course in 5 years. I'll tell you that right now. That's not my
That's great to hear. Mhm. Optimistic then. I'm optimistic about you. I know you'll
nice.
achieve this. Yeah.
In
Especially
five
after you,
years.
yeah.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Especially after you said that, then I'm confident in you that you will be successful. Yeah.
And in
What were you
5 years,
saying?
I'll be your ghostwriter. Your full-time ghostwriter. That's where I see myself in 5 years.